Hello, people. Welcome to the last European pod of the season here for the NC Network with myself, Double D.
Good, Kojo.
Yes, people, we are here and we're going to pick things up from where we last were. So it's going to be a review of everything basically that we hadn't, any leagues that hadn't, well, and the only league left in terms of the main ones that we've been concentrating on in terms of a winner was Serie A. So we'll be talking on that, but we'll be reviewing all the European finals because the last one that we did, we were doing predictions for the Europa League final. Unfortunately, it wasn't the result that Coach would have wanted, as we're going to get into in a minute or two. But before we get into it, Coach, how are you, sir?
Yeah, no, I'm good, man. I'm good, man. I'm over it. So, over it. Yeah, no, I'm in good health. Just focusing on life, really. What are you saying?
As you said, yeah, life in, but we'll hear. We get it done regardless. Professionals at hand. We get it done regardless. But yeah, I'm all right, bro. I'm all right. It could be worse, isn't it? Could be worse, but obviously, as I said, my team, I can't say the same for you, but my team won the league, so that helps.
No, there's only one team that can win the league. So
and you know a trophy. Okay, let's say a trophy rather. So you get what I'm saying. So that obviously helps when you love football as much as we do. You get what I'm saying, bro. But we're here, last one in the season, so we're going to try and squeeze in the next 45 to 50 minutes or so. We're going to try and squeeze in as much as possible. There's a lot to round up, as obviously said we weren't on last week. So we left off 2 weeks ago, Coach, with the Europa League final. Though I said out of the two of you, the Poisons, I would have preferred Tottenham to win it rather than Manchester United. They did, but your overall views on the final, as a fan, and obviously in terms of just how it went as it finished, Tottenham 1, Manchester United 0 in the Europa League final. And first of all, me, before I let you go off, the game played out like where the teams have finished in the Premier League. Basically, there was a distinct lack of quality in the final. Both teams looked afraid to lose, which is what happens a lot of the time in finals anyway. And so you don't get it as free flowing as you would expect it to be, because I think some people expected a goal fest just for the case. Though Tottenham have had injuries, you lot have had injuries. Obviously, Tottenham's main creativity, Bergvall, Madison, and Kulusevski were all missing. You lot have had a bag of injuries throughout the season, but it wasn't a high quality game. But a goal, bit of fortune in the goal, came off Luke Shaw and poked in by Brendan Johnson to get Tottenham to win. But you can get into United's transfers in a second at the end of giving it. What has this season shown you, and what needs to come? And are you happy at what is happening so far transfer wise?
Yeah, I mean,
3 questions in one.
Yeah, no. I think the best way to say it is obviously there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's just a lot of work that needs to be done. I've been saying that throughout the season. Goalkeeper, defense, midfield, attack. There's so many holes that need to be filled in terms of quality, in terms of depth. But the Spurs game in the final is pretty much how our season's been. If anyone's watching United, the frustration isn't, United are playing horrendously. The frustration is you just don't bang your chances again and again and again. And when we went against Spurs in the final, Spurs were fantastic. They had a bit of fortune, got their goal. Partly, of course, Shaw, partly Onana being very flat-footed. But the game went just how every other Premier League game has gone. Remember I said if Spurs are smart, they turn this into a Premier League match. That's what it was. And the reason I said that is because when you put United, last season anyway, season's done, so it'll be last season. Last season, when you put United in front of goal in a Premier League match, 8 times out of 10, they're missing their chances. And, when Amorim came in, from the day he came in to the end of the season, United were top three. I can't remember the first, second, or third, but certainly top three for biggest chances created and biggest chances missed. So that's why you've seen in the transfer window they've tried to address that straight away by bringing in forwards, because the forward line have not been trustworthy enough to put chances in the back of the net. And you can't keep relying on midfielder who now has to actually start playing a bit more deeper in Bruno Fernandes to keep contributing the goals more than anybody else on the team. That's the glaring issue for me. Like I'm not overly convinced by our defense. I'm not overly convinced by our midfield, but the forward line is addressing the most. And it's just errors after errors after error that's costing us games. The players will always make mistakes, but it's how often you make mistakes. Shaw came back for 6 games. I could score 2 own goals towards the end of the season. Like it's stuff like that where it's just. But he shouldn't have been there a long time ago. So it's gonna be a big rebuild. I keep saying that when I was on what channel? I think it's All for United or whatever it was called. During lockdown or just after lockdown, I think, and I told them that we need 15 new players. And at that time, obviously, we had Martial Rashford and he who shall not be named as a front for his case. And it looked like things were flowing. Pogba, Bruno, Matic midfield looked like it was going to work. But you can also see that was not going to be a long-term solution. So you have to rebuild properly, because when I say 15 players, it's not about only the 11. There has to be a good bench behind it, and then you can start blooding youngsters and all that. So if we had done it back then, people like Obi or Amas or even Menu would be thrusted so far into it straight away because he's such a good talent. But the United way is, yes, you are 18 and yes, you can start games, but we're not going to start you every game because he's eased in. And you can see he's falling back a little bit, which is fine. People lose form. And that's what I think I'm really trying to do with him. And now we're hearing about working on this athleticism just to get him that extra inch on the pitch going forward. So, yeah, the game went how it went because that's how it's been all season for United. United play well, can't back chances. United play bad, still can't back chances. I'm not an XG person. You know me, I hate statistics, but you want to go off XG. Most of the matches we've had since American Move, we've had a very high XG and not matched in goals. So for the stats lovers, that tells you the story of the matches as well, that United, regardless of how you think about their players, when they get into positions to score goals, they make their own decisions.
Yeah, Vicario almost made a very costly error. Yeah. A couple of his saves, a couple of big saves from him. Otherwise, it could have been a different outcome.
Yeah, exactly. But even when you look at those chances, you will argue that you should be hitting it more into the corner, or you should. These are not saves that. They're good saves because he's getting some distance away from the goal, palming it away and that, but they're not outstanding saves. And because they're not outstanding saves, you have to ask the question, what could you have done better? Bruno Fernandes attempting a diving header instead of, staying on his feet and trying to take a touch in space. Just weird stuff like that. But look, that's what happened. Spurs deserved it because whatever you want to say about statistics and everything, they made statistics that they scored and we didn't. So that's that. So I'm happy that in the window they're just in the forward line. I think they'll still go for another wing back. I think they'll go for another midfielder, and if we're lucky, they'll go for a goalkeeper, and then we go from there, man. But I'm calm. Obviously, when the final had finished, my head was hot. But
can imagine.
My head was very hot. But yeah, I'm way past that now, so all good. I'm happy with the deal so far. One's definitely done. One is now negotiating. So we'll see if we get a deal done with Brentford or not for Bremo. That's not a done deal by a long shot. But obviously we heard that he prefers the move. So yeah, man, we go from there. But
if you take away the fact that obviously whether or not you like Manchester United or not, like coming from someone like myself. Cunha already wrapped up. I think Cunha's a good player. His temperament's the only thing I question, but in terms of ability, a very good player and he's versatile, right? And Mbeumo is a player I'm a fan of as well. So if you get that over the line, I don't see there being any problem because if he's picked Manchester United, it would only be a case if they didn't want him. But so I expect that that to be sewn up. I'm not sure if there's any other players that you were linked to the lap, but the lap's on his way to Chelsea. Yeah. That is almost done, right? So if you just look at it like that, some good forward signings being addressed. If you take away the fact of looking at it as I don't like United or whatever, so the good signings, and it still goes to show that though you're not in Europe, obviously you can still attract players who would have had their choice of clubs, if especially if they sounded out some other teams in regards to where they want to go.
Well, I think the one thing that people don't understand about United and Liverpool, because Liverpool, when you guys weren't so great after, so you won Champions League 2005, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I say 2007-ish, where you kind of went back down a little bit and all that kind of stuff. You're still able to bring in Fernando Torres. And
to be fair, we just lost another Champions League.
Yeah, you did. But the point I'm making is I remember his interview very vividly because I was a big fan of his. I was gutted that you guys got him, but I wanted to hear what he was going to say. And I remember him talking about history. And people forget that players, whether they play in the Premier League or they are bought from abroad, if they are not, I say if they're not English, and they come from other countries where there are certain clubs that are a standard for them in their nations, they would want to go there. That's where they see as dreamland. That's, and what you're hearing about Mbeumo is, he wants to be part of what he thinks will be a revolution of bringing United back. You know what I mean? Whatever that means. It's something that appeals to players, and it's still the name. Manchester United is still a name. It's still one of the biggest clubs in the world, whether people like it or not. So that's what us two clubs had. If Liverpool after the season went on a run at Liverpool, it won't happen. But if they finish 15th next year, for example, they still be able to attract players because it's Liverpool Football Club. It's just what it is. People don't like that. People can go in their theories. Newcastle fans are losing their shit on social media, saying, you guys gotta be the money. Well, you guys got money as well. Offer the wage then. If you want them, buy them. Sometimes your legacy or the way you think it is because you've won a cup finally after 30 bloody years or whatever it is, and yes, we finished at the Champions League spot. Well, unfortunately, sometimes players pick other teams because they still think they're the bigger club, and that's just what it is. So we'll see. He could come and it might not work out, but so far, in terms of what he's done in the Premier League with Brentford and his profile and how he's played, he looks like a good signing. So now we need to see if that applies for Man United. It could work. Say for Cunha's done superbly at Wolves as an individual. They've had seasons where they've been good, and then they finished 16th last season. We finished 15th because we beat Villa on the last day. Well, hey, but he comes to United, and you talk about temperament. Imagine the first game he gets a red card, and he can play. We're like, oh no, here we go again. Like, you just have to wait and see. But so far, in terms of what the profiles are, I'm happy because it looks like they're looking to bring in better players. So, yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see.
Yeah. In regards to Tottenham, to finish up the Europa League bit, because obviously they did win the competition. One, do you think Ange Postecoglou will keep his job? And two, or you could actually reverse the order, if they played like that a bit more and they weren't all-out attack as they've been for like a large majority of Ange Postecoglou's tenure, would they have won more games if they were that bit more aware as they seem to be against you guys? They weren't. Maybe because they never had some of that attacking options and the creativity there made him rethink things, and usually he'd have at least one of those three out of Bergvall, and especially Kulusevski and Maddison, because I remember them playing, I think it was Everton, if I'm not mistaken, very early in the season, and he played on the bare Kulusevski. He threw everyone in there. It looked unbalanced, but they won the game 4-0, if I'm not mistaken, and the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium right at the start of the season. So was his hand forced, or even if the case if it was, is that caution if he was to keep his job something he'll look to more last season, and should he have done it more previously, as well as the fact, as I said, is he going to keep his job? So again, a combination of questions in there.
Probably should have done it in the bigger games. I think when you're I don't say weaker teams, because when you assess squads, there are some players from the so-called weaker teams that can get into Spurs 11. But anyway, I digress. Maybe if they were a bit more cautious, then maybe they would have won a few more games. But I think they have the same issue we have. I think they have a lot of games where they create chances and they don't bag. and they just make silly defensive errors and concede goals. It doesn't help, I would say, when you thrust Archie Gray. I know Archie Gray can play centre back, but he's a midfielder by trade.
Yeah.
You know, trusting him there, not preparing properly to have like a proper second goalkeeper. Because I know you could count Fraser Forster as a second goalkeeper, but Fraser Forster's not a 30-year-old goalkeeper. He's a very old goalkeeper, and he doesn't get near enough minutes. So when they signed that young guy in the January window to be a sort of you can see for a short-term cover for Vicario, it worked out a little bit until he started making mistakes. So Vicario came back and he rushed him in. The rest is history. But yeah, I think they have the same story as us. And when I watch them, I feel like I'm watching United 2.0. And this is just what I saw. So being cautious for this one game where 99% of teams did that to United this year anyway, because it's like, United won't do much if you just sort of remain compact, a slightly lower block, and, block off Bruno Fernandes and put 3 players around Ahmad when the ball goes on the right side of the pitch. Just lock him off. Done. But what I will say about Spurs injuries is people were talking about, obviously, they had injuries this year, but I don't think that they've had a loss of players in one sort of setting in a row. Like it was Maddison out, and then it was Kulusevski later, and Bergvall was ending the season. Son was in and out, but he's been slowing down anyway. We've called that a while ago. Whereas with United, it came in one go. It was Martinez gets injured.
To be fair, defensively though, talking about the
okay, yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, obviously Romero, Van der Ven were out.
Romero, Van der Ven, they literally had every defender out, which is why Gray had to be get so many minutes into defense as well. So defensively, attacking, I hear you, but defensively, they had an absolute madness with injuries.
Yeah, they did. But that's why I was talking about the cautiousness of it, because I feel like that doesn't really happen too much if you actually just hold up a higher, a lower line a little bit. You don't need to be so high when you're losing your players that actually working that tactic. Whereas United, whether you change tactic or not, Martinez got injured, Maguire was in and out, Shaw didn't come back for about 2 years. Matt Barry was centre back at some point. Then Heaven came in, played well. Then he got injured. Casemiro had to go centre back at some point. So it was so disjointed, and it wasn't going to work out balance wise. But look, there's no excuse either way. Like I said, Spurs have to win that final. But I think. Oh, you asked me whether he stays or not.
Yeah, would they keep him to wrap it up? The $1 million question.
Yeah, because I'm sure Spurs fans are a bit conflicted as well, because he just brought them a European trophy.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll be very honest. If I think they should keep him. I think he's earned it.
I do too, surprisingly. I do too.
Yeah, I think he's earned it. That cup win has saved him. He's big. Because if they lost, he's done. We wouldn't be talking about him.
Yeah.
He's gone. He's gone a long time ago. Even before Levy goes on holiday, he's gone. So that would have been a no-brainer. But he's won that, and he's brought an unrivaled joy to the club, and the fans love him for it. I think you got to give him at least December. You got to say, okay, if the results are all good by December, then you're fine.
Yeah, then go. Yeah.
But if they are rocky before December, then we got a conversation to have. And the risk is, I understand, because people will be like, well, if they're hearing this, like, well, you wanted Ten Hag out after he won the FA Cup. But what I will say is, Ten Hag, the writing was on the wall before the FA Cup final. It should have been win and go. That was the conversation. It wasn't, do we keep him? It was a unanimous for United fans, gone, he's done. So once you kept him and you backed him in the window, that was a problem. Whereas with Ange, I don't think Ange has actually recruited badly. If you look at the players that they've signed under Ange, they're not bad players. They're actually very good players that they've signed. It actually works. When they've got a full squad, he's got a point. They get better results. He's not lying there. You know what I mean? And the injuries have not worked, and obviously the high line continuing, that's your own doing. But if you talk about signings, they've actually made a lot of sense. You know what I mean? Like Vicario's, I'm not convinced by Vicario, but he's not been nowhere near as bad as Ondana has been. Van de Ven has been incredible at centre back for them.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Mm.
You know, Euro was signing under him. Euro obviously was injured when he was in his last couple of months at United, so that's unfortunate. But Euro was a big risk. That wasn't a established centre back that you can say is going to work or not work. So I'll hear if he sacks him. I'm not going to be mad at it. If Levy sacks him, it is what it is. But personally, I think he's probably earned that extra 3 months. But it's about when you back him in the window. That's your conundrum. But
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. I said that myself. Early December or Christmas, and review how he's done in the Champions League, because they won't be thinking, they won't have aspirations about winning the Champions League. They know they're in it. That's the prize from obviously winning the Europa League. So let's see what he does in the league. And let's see what they can do in the market, because obviously Champions League qualification will bring them some money. Winning the Europa League will bring them some money. London anyway, they're a well-run club anyway, so they could, in terms of like revenue, etc. So they could attract some people anyway. So yeah, as I said, give him till early December at the sheer minimum, because it just shows the fact that they've wanted the trophy for so long. They've had two of the better managers in the last 20 years of football in Mourinho and Conte. They stupidly axed Mourinho before a League Cup final.
Yeah.
So now someone's finally brought silver. Though the league season is disgraceful. To stay up losing 22 games, was it, or 21?
Yeah,
It's
21
incredible. But they've got the trophy at the end of the day. And you can say what you want about the Europa League not being as good, because the Champions League's been expanded and it's 36 teams rather than 32. And the teams that would go out in the Champions League in the group stage will drop down to the Europa. That doesn't happen anymore. They've still won it in it. So it is what it is. But right, because of time permitting, we a quick look at the Europa, the Conference League final, which finished Betis 1, Chelsea 4, and Chelsea got it together in the end. Big up Cole Palmer with the 2 assists, because some people were messaging me, because obviously, during the final, the WhatsApp groups, the social medias popping off, and people like, oh, where's Palmer? That the likes of Neville and Carragher say is probably the best player in the Premier League and all this. And then as soon as they said it, the assist for the first goal to Enzo, or the equaliser for Enzo. And then obviously I didn't realise it came off Jackson's chest the second goal. I thought he headed it in. But is this final, because Betis started off really, really well, is this a case of Ezazuli coming off injured after 53 minutes? Is that maybe because he was causing Chelsea so many problems in the first half? Is it as simple as that Maresca tweaked things in the second half, and that, along with what had been Betis' main attacking threat coming off, is what kind of set it for Chelsea to go on and win it? Not necessarily we expect it to be as comprehensive a second half as that, but if Ezazuli had stayed on, would it have been a different result?
No.
Chelsea still would have come through.
Yeah. No, I think their quality and the power was just too much, man. That's honestly how I assessed the game. It was just a matter of time. That's what I can put it down to. I think the final, I don't think there's too much to assess in that one. It's one of those games where it's almost like you're playing a game of Football Manager, and you've assembled a team that's just ridiculously strong. You've built a team that's very powerful, and you're winning all the trophies. You get to a final, and you're watching the game, and your team goes behind 1-0, and it's just like, your team's going to score. It's just Chelsea are going to score. I mean, Chelsea fans can come and pick it as Betis are a tough team, which they are. It was never going to be easy, which it wasn't going to be easy, but it would have been horrendous if Chelsea did not win this Conference League. From the moment they were in the competition, it was done for me. It was done. If they did not win at any moment, I would have absolutely tore into them. And whether they finish in the Champions League spot or not, I would have said Maresca has to go. Yeah. Because that's a very, 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 very winnable competition. It's like, and there are positives and negatives to the whole people talking about you don't drop down if you get knocked out of the Champions League or the Europa League, for example. Well, yes, but is also a positive because your reward for getting knocked out of a group stage shouldn't be rewarded by going to another competition and walking into the knockouts of that competition. You know what I mean? So, you know, yeah, I think they benefit from that as well. But they should have won it, and I'm happy for their sake that they did, because anything else would have been a sham. But bro, this be real. They didn't take this competition seriously from early. They registered Kopama way
Yeah,
late.
okay, that's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. All thing is, no one is shocked that they've won it, but it's just that in that final in particular, I thought Betis would beat them, and I said it on here that I thought that they would beat them. Anthony didn't do what I thought he was going to do. Maybe it's because he was up against a Premier League opponent. I don't know. People have
maybe the real Anthony just came into the room again. Maybe that's just what it is. That's what it is. I will not be duped, my friend. I know who he is, man.
You get me? But it's one of them ones where, yeah, as you said, no one is supposed to win the competition. They were favourites before it for a reason. As you said, they didn't even register Cole Palmer. In some of these group games, they played like the strongest player or the biggest known name in the starting 11 might have been Nkunku, because they gave that brother, is it Mark? Is it Guyu? The Spanish guy, the youngster, who's a finisher. He was doing well in the group stage, and you could say at times it was like a third team rather than a second team, and it got minutes for George and all these other players, and they were well rested. And as you said, that allowed Palmer to. They didn't register Palmer, so you would have expected maybe a bit more GA from him in the Premier League due to the fact of he did not have the schedule that the others had. So therefore, they should have had more than enough left in the tank. Jorgensen continued in goal instead of Sanchez in the competition. We saw there was another person that Romeo Lavia wasn't registered in this either, was he? Lavia wasn't registered as well as Palmer, and we all know how good Lavia is. And they were still able to come through, though there were maybe one or two shocks in the final in terms of the starting lineup. I don't know what Adrian was doing in goal, but being a Liverpool fan, and obviously even before that, knowing about him from West Ham, I'm not surprised by some of the antics. I think he ended up diving over the Sachado goal. Well done to Chelsea. We expected them to do it. They qualified for the Champions League after it anyway. With Aston Villa losing to you guys, so yeah, they've done their thing. So in the end, don't get twisted. I still think Potts should have got another year, but Maresca's won them a trophy, and he's got the Champions League qualification. So you can't say he's failed, regardless of the fact that the amount of points they dropped. Because remember, in December when they played Fulham, they could have gone top.
Yeah,
they could have gone top. They lost to Fulham, then they lost a game after that. I can't remember if it was Everton or whether they played, and they've dropped a lot of points since then.
I still maintain though that the reason for that drop off, in my opinion, whether people want to believe it or not, whether you think I'm making an excuse or not, is I don't agree with your manager coming out and saying that we're nowhere near able to win the title despite being so much in that moment in the initial start of the race. Like if you're in that position, when you ask the question, for me, you just say, look, we're just trying to take every game as it comes. Then we go, you stop there. This whole we're not ready, and then instilling that in the system is into the players. If you lose a game, it's like, well, we're not set yet. So no, that shouldn't be the attitude. That's just my opinion. I mean, and yeah, you wouldn't say that about the Conference League, judged on the squad that you've got and the teams you're playing against, but if you're in a position and you're doing well, just continue. If you fall off, then you just say, look, we were where we were. Sometimes this happens. We just have to keep going and rebuild and move from there. And it happens. And then the pressure is fine. But if you're in that position, you just, it's simple as, yeah, we'll try to keep going. We're in good form and we're just trying to win as many games as possible. Then everyone's fine. No one's telling you to come and say, yes, we're in the title race. Because if you say that and you drop off, then you're in trouble. So, but he said it. It's done now. But, yeah, man. That's the, I'm not a fan of that personally, but it's what it is.
Right. So people like myself, regardless of whether or not, like, obviously I'm a Liverpool fan, but in terms of having a different team in varying countries, my Italian team, since I've been in primary school has been Inter Milan. So if, like myself, that is your team in that country, or you are Inter Milan fan in general, then the next 10 minutes or so, um, it might not be the best thing for you to listen to, unfortunately,
Yeah.
because we're gonna squeeze a lot of Inter talk in here, but a lot of PSG as well, because they deserve their props for what they've done. But first of all, coach, last time we came on, we gave our predictions for Serie A, and we looked uh, and that you can't look past Napoli. I'll say that I've got the little inkling, but that's probably more my heart from in terms of like my love for Inter. But they named a weakened team Inter for that last game of the season. Um, Against Como. They won it 2-0, but they weren't expecting Napoli to drop points. Inter actually took the lead first to put a bit of the pressure on. But Scotto, the man we've spoken about, Napoli beat Cagliari 2-0. Brilliant, overhead kick, scissor kick, bicycle kick, whatever you want to call it, to give them the lead. And then Romelu Lukaku made it 2-0 Napoli as they went on to win the league. That's what, they're second in 3 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
First one under Spalletti, and now this one under Conte. Conte is staying despite all the drama around that. So first of all, before we get into the Inter talk, we've got to give the ratings for Napoli for getting it done. We spoke constantly on here throughout the season about the fact that people are looking at the Premier League players that he's brought in, the billings. Obviously, even before he came there, Zambo Anguissa was there, and he was okay at Fulham, but it doesn't necessarily light it up. He's brought in McTominay, he's brought in Gilmore, and a lot of people had things to say, but the P&P, they've had their data analysts on it, and the P&P from Prem, the intensity, he knew again, just like he did when he won the league with Inter, when he had the Darbians and he brought in the Ashley Young, etc. So players that were already there, and once he brought in what they could do. And Conte's delivered again. Whatever you have to say about him, he's delivered another league title.
Fact. That's why we were talking about. I think it was 3 weeks ago. Talking about his work for a high standard. That's what he ever asked for. He's not asking for the moon. He's not asking for the stars. He's just asking for everyone to try and push to the best that they can be. You know what I mean? And then you go from there. He's an incredible manager. He's a motivational manager. Similar to Mourinho in the terms of the whole it's us against everybody else type situation. Don't focus on everybody else. They want us to lose, they want us to fail. Go out there and drive. And Napoli, look, to be fair, in the last 3 years, their guys have been Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia.
Yeah.
And Osimhen left in the summer, obviously on loan to Galatasaray. No one knows where he's going in the summer because apparently his wage demands are madness. Trying to feed everyone in Abuja so they don't have to work again. And then there was Kvaratskhelia to obviously the Champions League winners PSG for a good sum of money, but you've lost your two best players. So what do? Well, he's managed to make sure that the squad knows play ball, and they got results, and he's going result after result after result. A lot of cynics in the McTominay deal, myself included. I didn't know how he was going to do there, but he's done incredibly well for them. Lukaku has regained really good form.
Yeah,
he's been a very good player leading the line for them, and they've just built a very good base around the team, so everyone knows their role. Zambo Anguissa, I think for me, he's a monster. Yeah. I love him, and I'm hoping he doesn't sign a new contract. That being said, I don't think United have the common sense to sign him, but there you go.
There's talk of him maybe Saudi, other teams and what. There's a lot of talk about Zambo Anguissa at the moment, so we'll have to keep tabs on that.
I think he ends up in Saudi as well, but I would love Man United because he's so strong, he's physical, he's got a great defensive mind, he's good going forward as well, but more than anything that he is so comfortable in the football. He's very technical as well. So you come up. I know people listen to that. What is he complete? It's not about being complete. It's about being near enough complete. You know what I mean? And that's what he brings. But yeah, look, kudos to them, man. They're all fantastic. It's a weird, sad end for Inter because what was that? 4 competitions getting so close.
This is what I'm saying. They lost in the semi-final of the Coppa Italia to Milan. Yeah. They lost in the Super Coppa to Milan, and they got smashed in that as well. They've come second in the league. And now we get to this. This really, really hurt me. Thank God Liverpool won the league. This really, really hurt me because I haven't not got any big gripes with Paris Saint-Germain, but it's the manner that it happened. We've just spoken about the fact that Inter rested people for the last game of the season, though there was still a chance of them winning the league, but they didn't expect Napoli to drop points. So we've known for a bit in Serie A that they've looked leggy, but it didn't come like they even turned up in this final. So finally, we get to the Champions League final. We rearranged the order because this was going to actually be first, but then we remembered since we were last time, we've not spoken about the other European stuff, so we've got to fit everything in as this is the last, more likely the last one until we return in August, right? Yeah, Paris Saint-Germain 5, Inter Milan 0 in the Champions League final. It really, 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 really hurt, as I said, but PSG were absolutely brilliant. I'm happy for Enrique because I like him as a manager, and as we spoke about already on here before, bar Roma hasn't really done any bad job anyway. This is his second treble, so Pep Guardiola obviously had done the treble. Both of them had done it at Barca, former Barca teammates as players, incidentally as well. And then obviously Enrique here with Paris Saint-Germain. Pep obviously did it 2 years ago, beating Inter Milan in the final as well. A Champions League final as well, did it with Manchester City, so they've both done trebles. But Inter, before we get into the game, does Inzaghi stay? Because I think he'll stay, but now the talk is kind of mixed. Saudi links, etc. There's Premier League teams that want him. Arsenal seem to think that they can get him. Is he going to stay? Because this is a catastrophic end to the season. Ended up with no trophies, having challenged on all fronts.
I don't think he stays, man. I think he's in Saudi. I think he's going to be in Saudi by the end of the week, personally.
Ooh,
yeah. I don't think you can have that devastating end to the season and survive. And that's not only with the club, I'm talking about the fans as well. I don't think they have confidence in him anymore. Yeah, it has to be a special type of unlucky to lose semi-final, final like that, and last day of the season, even though you weren't in control of that team above you initially, but even that in itself, the previous game, Napoli drew, and you couldn't get the job done.
And Inter drew as well, didn't they?
Exactly, you couldn't get the job done.
Lazio.
Yeah, you couldn't get the job done, and that doesn't sort of create the narrative of what kind of manager you are or what your career has been. He's a great manager, no question. But sometimes at a club, if it doesn't work out the way that they want it to and you want it to, sometimes it's better to cut ties. And I think he would appreciate a breath of fresh air somewhere else. Personally, it doesn't have to be Saudi, of course, but I think that's where he goes. So yeah, man, I think let's cut ties, man. They haven't had a bad season. They've had a shocking end, but it's not a bad season. But obviously, because when you have trophies right in front of your face and you're not able to grab one of them, it's gonna be hard to recover from. But I don't think they will trust him to lead the line next year because the question is gonna be, does he get us over the line? So yeah, I think Saudi by the end of the week, man.
Oh man, it's not what I wanted to hear, but you know how it is. But yeah, but nah. In terms of the game, again, rest in peace, Enrique's daughter. Obviously, like dedicate to her. As he said himself, like he didn't need to win, obviously, to remember her. But I was so shocked and stunned that her death back was that 2019 or 2020 that happened, and obviously he left a role that he was in at the time. Obviously, because he needed a break for obvious reasons. Was he with Spain at the time? But yeah, he needed a rest for obvious reasons. But we've spoken previously about how well coached PSG are. Mbappe come outside, as you said, because they've let go of him and they've just become a better all-round team.
Yeah.
Just so well coached. For all this talk about, like, look, and they've done it without a 9 in starting main part of the games because Goncalo Ramos is the 9 that's there, but he's a bench guy.
Yeah.
for a majority of the season. And then whether it's been Doue, absolutely brilliant. It was Bacola earlier in the season, but Doue's ousted him. Dembele since Christmas has been unbelievable.
Yeah.
And yeah, who do you think that does this put Dembele as the front runner now for the Ballon d'Or? Because the bookie's favourite before was Yamal, but now the odds have slightly been mixed around. Obviously, Rafinha right there too.
I'm still edging towards Yamal simply because I don't think people understand the power of the Spanish clubs. Just putting that out there. But yeah, Dembele is definitely second for sure. Just incredible talents, man. Incredible talents. You know what I will say about PSG and the final, and the reason why I think they won it, we'll go into Mbappe talk in a second, is what you said about how well coached they are. But it's not just about tactical approach. It's the hard work and determination of the team. Look at the goal that Doue scored, right? To pretty much kill the title for make it 3-0. Vitinha's work was I haven't seen a midfielder do that since like the days of genuinely a Scholes, Lampard, Gerrard, Vieira type thing, where from back to front they're showing themselves, they want the ball, they're passing, quick thinking, quick movement, 1-2, 1-2 move, 1-2. Now it's time to drive. They drive forward, link the ball forward, 1 through ball pass, job done. That was a masterclass performance, bro. That was a masterclass performance. That for me is a top 5 Ballon d'Or player. It's not going to work out like that, but that for me is a top 5 Ballon d'Or player. That performance sums up his whole season. Like, obviously, me and you watch European football, so we keep an eye on these guys. We watch up. This guy this season, he's not spoken about because in football the shine goes on, you know, all the attackers. Or
because of statistics, is the GA thing,
exactly.
etc. So certain man, the youngers are not necessarily appreciating what we used to appreciate back in the day before things were so stat led and you get me all stat laden
exactly. And it's you know, people when you talk about Xavi and Iniesta, for example, I'm not putting them on the same pedestal, believe me, but when you talk about those two, they were close to Ballon d'Ors, but they weren't winning it because Messi and Ronaldo were goals and assists galore, but they were also performances ridiculous levels of, you know what I mean? Like so if they were behind, it was fine. Whereas apart from Yamal and Dembele and Salah, because Salah still deserves a mention for a Ballon d'Or, man. Apart from those three, I cannot give you a footballer, in my humble opinion, that is or has had a better season than Vitinha. Vitinha has been ridiculous.
Yeah.
Been absolutely ridiculous from start to finish of the season. And I have missed watching a total control midfielder. He's a throwback. And I feel like it proves my argument. I won't say my point because football's an opinion game. My argument that football doesn't always need this idea that it's changed so much. The players that are still the best are the players that do things that were done back then. Things don't need to change. We talk about the best midfielders being the best midfielders because they can control and they can make passes that you guys actually now call the pre-assist. Those passes that they make that split open defenses. These guys have been doing it from a long time, and now you've sort of glamorized it a little bit. Those players that are so technical that you almost don't want us to do defensive work, so you call them a luxury player. They're not luxury players. They are super talents. And you should build around them. That's what they're there for. This guy is incredible. Genuinely, so intelligent.
You don't see him. He can dribble with it. You don't see him give it away. You get what I'm saying. But the thing about as a team as a whole, though, the way PSG press Inter, so even when Inter were trying to push up and do something a little differently, they just got squashed in, and it was unfair. If that was a boxing match, they would have stopped it time ago, bruv. Because it could have been more than 5. Bacola missed a chance. Kvaratskhelia missed a chance, and even still was it at 4-0. Kvaratskhelia ran back 50-60 yards. He was tracking back, just so involved. And Doue obviously beat us along the way, which obviously annoyed me thoroughly this they deserve to win this team.
Yeah, yeah,
Since they lost 2-0 to Arsenal in the long group stage or whatever the league stage, whatever you want to call it, they've been the best team in the tournament. Them and Barca. So then Barca obviously got no, but actually clean up because Barca from the start were going mad. So yeah, since they lost to Arsenal, they've been the best team in the tournament. You get what I'm saying?
yeah.
So and they've gone on and then obviously beaten Arsenal again, home and away to rectify that. But yeah, they're just so well coached. I'm happy for Enrique because I like the brother. When obviously from the time he spent at Real Madrid, obviously I was a fan of him for a player, and he was so versatile. Where he could play anywhere across the midfield. Enrique could even go in the forward line, and at any position there as well and do something and there. So Doue obviously clearly wanted Inter to win. I wasn't bitter, let's say, but just a thoroughly good performance. Doue outstanding.
Yeah.
Fancy that 5 goals and Dembele and 5 goals and Dembele didn't score. Imagine.
But sometimes you don't have to score. His performance is great.
Yeah.
You just don't have to score. You know,
He's still with his running and his movement across the line. You get what I'm saying? Floating still cause enough problems to open up space for the rest of the team.
Just my final part on this is when you talk about Mbappe, what you said about Mbappe and the hard work. Look, that clip of Enrique speaking to him, that's not Enrique accusing Mbappe of not being a hard worker. Footballers work hard. Footballers have different styles of running. You know, like Berbatov used to be, for example, accused of not being a hard worker because he has a languid type movement. But if you watch him, he comes so much on the pitch, right? Mbappe, it's not that he's not a hard worker. It's do you fulfill all your duties when you need to fulfill them? Because in that clip, he told Mbappe, listen, many times over in that 2 or 3 minute clip, I believe in you. You are, when you're attacking, you are a god. He called him a god attacking wise. He said you are a god attacking wise. We know this. We know this about you. But do you have that extra drive to go back and do your defensive duties? It's the reason why me and you loved people like Drogba, you know, like Rooney, like all the great strikers that would go and put a shift in at the back because they knew they needed to. Even Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, at his time in Madrid, where he could arguably just say, of course, I need to be the guy that's always at the front. Sometimes in the tough games where they were 1-0 ahead or 2-1 up, you see him win the headers at corners defending for the team.
Even in terms of it, because obviously Mbappe can play wide forward as well as the 9. This is why Liverpool fans love Mane, for example. Work rate as well as GA as well. You get me? All round, it helps the team. And you can see now with 11 men on the same page at PSG, that is what they can produce. And with so many young players in that team, this could be the first of a bag of Champions League finals for them, and it could be wins too. You get what I'm saying? Exactly. I mean, last time the final was played in Munich, Chelsea obviously beat Munich in their own backyard. That was their first win, so it seems to be a recurring thing in finals that happen in Munich. But now, what a display! What a display from them! It was absolutely brilliant. But Inter it hurt, but our PSG were excellent. And contrary to reports from certain managers about his team being the best team in the competition, Enrique said the hardest challenges they faced this season in the competition, he said, were Liverpool and Aston Villa. So yeah,
well, they played 2 90-minute games, and PSG were ahead in the 4th minute. So, however you want to assess that, you can have your 1 or 2 moments, but
I saw one of their fans say on social media, should have got the act, because someone sent it to one of the groups. And he said we went blow for blow with this PSG team, and then someone replied to it, and they said it's funny how Liverpool only lost on penalties to PSG, and Aston Villa were, I think they said a goal line clearance or whatever away. from you get me, from taking them to extra time or something like that, and
No,
then goes,
that's,
but yeah, it's Arsenal that I think they are the comparable ones to them when they lost
but see,
home and away.
but even with that, like the guy has a point, but even with that, those are the things that make the difference, isn't it? Like the keeper saves a penalty, they deserve to go through. If you miss a penalty, you don't deserve to go through. Aston Villa, you got clear off the line, but that's part of the footballer's job. He has to be there when the goalkeeper.
Oh no, but what they're saying is that they're saying funny that those two came that close and their fans aren't saying anything. That's saying
I'm
you lost
backing
home and away, but you're saying, you get what I'm saying, that like you did better than them. We all got knocked out by them anyway. You
No, exactly, yeah. But no, I'm trying to back up the point. That's the whole thing. Like, look at those margins, and you'll still say they deserve to go through because they got the job done.
Yeah.
So at Arsenal, if you feel like you agree because you feel like you went blow for blow for them, beat them.
There you go. That's the thing.
You beat Real Madrid, so beat them now. You didn't do it. So what are we here for? I don't get it. Anyway.
Best team in the competition, though. Remember that.
Of course. They're the best team in most competitions. That's why they don't win any. Bloody hell.
But yeah, so do Tottenham, when the Super Cup comes back, and obviously we'll be back, if not the midweek after. So that Super Cup will obviously be on a Wednesday as always. If we're not, we should be back on the Monday or the Tuesday after that. We'll be returning in August. Do Tottenham have any chance of doing anything?
You know what's funny? I'm gonna say yeah. Let's say yeah. No, look. I'm not trying to say that now. This is not some sort of Spurs revolution. It's not, but they have a chance to win the game. I think if they go, the thing is about Spurs, if they go into the game with a fully fit squad, I'm not saying they can go band for band with PSG. I'm not saying that at all. I think PSG's front line and midfield trump theirs, but there is stock in the fact that Spurs have such a good bunch of gifted young players, and I don't think it's spoken about enough. They have a very good bunch of gifted young players, and if they're able to utilize them well and start developing them the way they should, they will surprise some people next season. I'm not saying they're going to win a title race. I'm just saying in terms of what you think they may do, they might go a lot further than people realize. They've got a good base there. This has been my issue with Spurs the whole time. I'm not a Spurs fan by any means. I hate them, bun them. But when you assess it as a football fan and you assess that squad, there are players in there that you would love in your squad because they've got high potential. They really do. And a lot of these guys are, if you're talking about experienced players, a lot of them are 25, 26. They've got a base there. It's what you do with it. That's what counts. So they have a chance. I still think PSG will beat them, I guess, 3-1, 4-1. It is what it is. But they've got a chance to do something next year. And when you win a trophy, it doesn't mean it's a catalyst, but you got to try and use it as a catalyst. You determine that. So you've won the trophy now. If Ange stays or goes, that's not the point. If they build a decent enough squad to start pushing for a bit more, they will challenge you for something, for sure. Could be an FA Cup, could be a League Cup. They could go further in the Champions League, as Villa did. Why can't they? You just have to build it. But, if Spurs go and do what they do, then that ain't going to happen. So, yeah, we'll see.
Well, could it be because of this damn World Club Cup that's about to start, that PSG might give some members of the first team a prolonged rest and give them a week to 10 days more off than others, and then they name a weakened team? It's amazing. Players like Zaire Emery, you get what I'm saying, who seem to be forgotten now in the midst of all this brilliance they're doing at the moment, and like they were talking like French Jude Bellingham and that. More of those players start, and then Tottenham go full strength, and then they can pull it off. We're obviously going to talk about this again, obviously closer to the time, because it's just over 2 months away. But you never know.
I don't think PSG are that nice, but because again, I hate to disrespect leagues, but PSG are the one team in League that could probably maybe lose their first 2 league games in the season and say there's nothing.
Still be a minor.
Yeah, you guys rest a little bit. We'll come back for game 3. We keep it moving. They can do that because Marseille have built a good team. They've got a few criminals in there, but we move.
Oh no!
But other than that, allegedly. But other than that, no. Look, I think they will go full strength for the Super Cup, and then just rest here and there in in League. Well, they're revamping that as well now, aren't they? So that's gonna be interesting. But yeah, I think they'll go to. That's why I think they'll still beat Spurs 3-4-1. I don't think that will change. But let's see how the transfer window goes. If Spurs suddenly do amazing business, my prediction might change.
There you go. Right, to wrap up, because we did have another thing we're going to do, but time, because we've gone so in depth with each final, that's not going to be able to be possible.
Well, I've got extra 15 if you want to go.
For real? Oh, okay, we'll continue.
You know what? Yeah, and if it gets a bit tight, then I'll just message you privately and be like, hey. But let's go.
Yeah. All right, that's fine. Then I'm working with you. I'll set this up because obviously we talking it around the pod anyway, so we could continue with Champs and then quickly do the other bit because the other bit's not that long. World Club, Club World Cup rather, yeah, Club World Cup. Could PSG do this as well? Could PSG win this as well?
Yeah, they're actually my favourites now. Now that
For real, I think with Madrid tying up the Trent Alexander-Arnold, thank you for the 10 million. To get him earlier than June the 30th, right? I think they're going to go all in because Mbappe has bagged in 40 odd goals in all competitions, and all they've got to show for it is the Super Cup when they beat Atalanta right at the start of the season. Yeah, I think Madrid are going to go all out for this. I think Courtois injured, isn't he? Or am I mistaken?
He is. I think he still is. Yeah. I think. No, I'm still in PSG. I think it might. Maybe I'm wrong. So if I'm wrong, so be it. But I think Xabi Alonso will be using this to figure out his team for the season, and then they go from there. So
will Xabi change formation?
He might do. He might feel like
he was so with the three, mainly the three at the back at Leverkusen. Do we think he'll?
Yeah, he might do. You know, he's different. So I think he's different to like Amorim in this, for example, where Amorim is like three at the back is my thing. That's what we're gonna do here. Whereas I think Xabi Alonso is pretty much like a 3 worked for this squad, 4 worked for this squad. So I'm gonna go 4 here, and he'll maintain the 4. He's not gonna do 4 to train them into a 3. He'll just remain at 4 at the back, and then just keep going from there. So it'll be interesting. But I think he uses his tournament just to figure out what's best for his team, and then from there, they go forward. So we'll see.
It's going to be interesting. I'm not sure. I think Channel 5 have picked this up over here. It doesn't seem like a bag of networks were drawing for it. These players play too much as it is anyway. I didn't see. This is all money grabbing, man. Like they were, all these federations were in a money grabbing thing anyway. But obviously, COVID, though, like in terms of what happened there, and then having to play games behind closed doors, all these other things going on. And Champions League concluded within that and whatnot. They lost money and just like that. These players, I don't know what's happened in terms of the sports science. Maybe because they know more, they can identify more. But remember we will know back when Prem was 42 games. And they used to play on Boxing Day, the weekend before Christmas. This way, Boxing Day, there'd sometimes be like a 2-day gap. They'd play 2 or 3-day gap, and then they'd play New Year's Day and the day after. That doesn't happen now. And even still, these players are talking about being overplayed, and then you're bringing in and expanding a tournament. I didn't really need any expanding to it. It was fine how it was. You gave a team a bye or whatever. It got sorted after New Year. And then done, and now this tournament here. Don't get twisted. People like us analyze football. Obviously, I come on the radio every Saturday with a show, so that helps. That gives us material for those games that we wouldn't have had before. But I don't think it was needed. But it's here, isn't it? So we'll see whether teams maximise it, and because with some of the teams in there, we should, especially in the latter stages, get some top quality games. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I'm keeping it real. I'm not very excited about this tournament. Keeping it very real. I don't know how much of it I'm going to catch. Not on purpose, obviously life, but I'm just intrigued to see how it goes because I feel like I'm starting to get a bit pissed off with football a little bit, And it's not, when I say that, people always think, oh, because your team. It's not about my team. Whether my team was good or not, that's not the point. Football players and fans, I feel like need a break.
This is it.
They need a break. I'm sorry, we do.
Break.
I mean, look at let's assess what's happened. It's 2025 now. So last season, 2023-24, had a whole season. Obviously, all the competitions in between, depending on whichever competition you're based in, right? Even the teams that are not in European competitions still have to play a ridiculous amount of football because sometimes you have to start from league round 1 or round 2 of the Carabao Cup, depending on which league you're in. You know what I mean? Like it's absurd. And then you go into international breaks with Nations League, which I think is bloody pointless, or qualifiers for this competition or that competition. And then you got a competition at the 2024 and the end of 2024, which was Euros in 2024, right? Because we've got World Cup next year, don't we? Yeah, so Euros, and then you go have a very short break at the end of the season and have a very short break towards the beginning of the season. Just go straight into your league season again, play so many games, competitions here, there, everywhere. And now this season's just finished. Mate, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time we've had a European and FA Cup final before the league had finished. And then they get a very short break, some teams, and they go and do Club World Cup. Man United are not in that, so they're going to have a break. But they even went to Hong Kong and Malaysia to go and play games over there. Yeah. And then you're going to come back.
You got a trophy, yeah. No.
And then, you know, they're gonna have, that set is going to have a break now. But that break is not very long, in considering how long the season is. That break is very short. And then you go into, like, it's so exhausting. And as a fan, sometimes the one thing you want is just a little break away from the game. You can't keep watching. But this is what they use as an excuse to charge all these stupid prices. Is, well, it's football every day now. So you get your TNT, get your Sky Sports, because Monday to Monday, there's football. Monday night football, Champions League Tuesday, Champions League Wednesday, Thursday, Europa League Conference League, Friday, it's not as a kickoff. And if it's not Premier League, it could be Scottish League, it could be Championship, it could be Italian, it could be La Liga, it could be Bundesliga. Now that's on YouTube as well. Now, so if you want something free, you can watch Bundesliga or the Bundesliga 2. And then weekend, there's definitely gonna be football then as well. And just when you think you're checking the fixtures, oh wait, it's not Premier League this weekend. It's FA Cup though. How much are we watching? How much?
I hear you. And the thing is that if they were on accessible things, it's cool. But all these different things, look how much you're paying for a Sky, or if you've got TNT Sports as well, and all these varying things. Like, what's going on? Even if you're someone that likes lower league, like National League comes on the zone. You want me to pay extra fee to watch National League, which should be coming on TNT within that. Obviously, you pay for TNT, but should be coming on there. Like, obviously, it was before and that. Like, what the hell is going on? How much money do these people think we have? It's being taken away from regular consumer, and this is where the game's being lost. So they wonder why there are kids that are playing computer more than ever before and watching streamers play games and what ever before, because they are being disconnected because their family might not have the money from paying that full price for the football. It's easier to have iPad, and these things are still expensive, but you can get by getting the good things and still get by with life. Who's got the money for all these things to watch football on all these platforms? It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And even when you say about National League, that should be on free TV.
That should be on free TV. Like, that should be on like an ITV or something like that. You know,
I put on ITV. Listen. I love Rush Hour. I can recite Rush Hour bar for bar. I love that movie. Rush Hour 1, Rush Hour 2. I can watch it word for word, bar for bar. That's my movie. That's my trilogy of all time. Right? Listen, I love Harry Potter. It's a great movie as well. From 1 to
always on
9 or whatever. Like, it's what you say?
No, I'm saying always on.
It's always on.
Run it back.
You could literally just, let's focus on putting National League here. And then when it's an international break, where sometimes England are not playing, so you're not watching these games, hey, you slap on a little movie. When it's half term, slap on a movie there. You have to keep doing football after football after football. We love the game. But sometimes everyone that does something that they love still needs a break from it every now and then.
There you go.
You just need to relax.
Recharge, reset.
Recharge. Yeah, that's what you need. Just a little break here and there, man. Wrestlers, footballers are not supposed to be wrestlers. We're not supposed to be seeing them on TV for 2 weeks of the year. And even then, in this generation, they still get holidays now.
but
They're
you
not
know,
on every single show.
and this is why people, because obviously this pod we've been doing this since the 1920 season, right? But even because of there's so much to go through, we would even, time permitting, we'll do the Eredivisie, Liga 1, etc., in addition to what we mainly concentrate on in Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga, right? And obviously you'll get little bits dropped in from the Premier League as well. But it's the way the game weeks are chopped up as well, make it really hard to consistently have a time per week to do it. Because there's sometimes where I'm like, coach, you're available here, and it'll be, no, I'm available here. I've got to do this. I'm doing a piece, or I'm doing this form of work. Coach is doing that form of work. And then we look at it and we think, oh, we're going to record this on Thursday. They're playing in the Liga today. The new game week started in the Liga. The game week's going from Thursday night until Monday night. And at the sheer minimum, it will definitely start on a Friday night, whatever league. And then, as I said, if there's teams in the Europa League or conference, they might not play until the Monday. So it's very complex to find a good time to be able to do it. And obviously permitting, because we do offer things as well. I do other podcasts. Coach does other podcasts. I write to, etc. Coach has got a family. It's so hot. It's very difficult to do, man. It's very, 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 very difficult to. I don't think people actually appreciate that. They just look at it and just think like, yeah, oh, anyone can do a podcast. It's not like that. You know what I'm saying? It's not like that. The attention to detail and whatnot has to be incredible. Even the other day, as I said, I was at my cousin's son's B-day. I completely forgot that to check the final score of the Strasbourg game. So I've come on board doing the Liam Senior section, and then I'm just like, oh God, they've missed out on Europe by like goal difference or whatever it was. That is how peak it is. You know what I'm saying, bruv? That's how much is being gathered when doing various things. So we love football, but it's like, chill, too much money grabbing going on. Don't kill the game. Don't kill the essence of the beautiful game that we love in it.
Exactly.
Get me? So boy, but yeah, that was your little rant to finish up there. We better call it there, otherwise they're going to think, "What? These guys don't like football anymore." No, I'm playing, but yeah. So we'll be back in August. Unless there's an emergency pod that would need to be done before then, we'll be back in August. Me and Coach, let them know where they can find you up until we return here with the European pod on the NC network.
What's my Twitter? Coach_Kojo. Wait, no, Kojo Free Midfield is my Twitter. Instagram, don't follow my Instagram. And Style of Play podcast. I think season's done, so we'll take a little break from that as well, but I'm sure we'll do bits here and there. And there's one, he's Stay Tuned with Theo as well, also from thing. So yeah, that's actually what that's just topic based. So if we have time on a day of the week where we're both at home, we jump on that and then we just talk about current affairs and whatever else we can talk about. So yeah, man, check it out.
Pick up. Yeah, and you can see it on there if you're watching on YouTube. Looking visually, because you might just have headphones and not be looking at the screen as you're listening, as some do. But Dubul Dee on all platforms. That's DUBULDEE, and I am part of the D&D Football Factory on the socials. We are at DD Footy Factory _ and we go live every Saturday, people, on Top FM at 10 a.m. That's 95.5 FM if you're in London. If you're not, best to download the On Top FM app or tune in, but probably I'd say the On Top FM app, because TuneIn has been doing some randomness recently. So yeah, 10 a.m. every Saturday, we go live with the Footy on Top show and get some podcasts from us sometimes too. And me and Coach also, but we will let you know. You lot will be the first to know. Might have some things, new stuff brewing within the next few months, if not defo before the end of the year. But you lot will be informed here, you get me, on the NC network. So thank you very much for listening, people. We are out until the 25-26 season. Thank you very much for listening to the European Football Podcast here on the NC network. Take care.